there! Welcome to my tutorial about how to draw cats in typical poses. This video is part of a series where the first one taught you already about the basics. If you haven't watched that one already, then I highly recommend that you do so at first. The drawings for this video have already been made beforehand, so I don't need to draw every single cat from scratch. Alright, so let's get to it. I have prepared 9 different cat poses, and the first one is going to be a cat stretching. To be precise, a cat stretching its front legs. You can see that they're almost completely stretched out and straight forward. Keep in mind that the joints cannot bend over 180 degrees like our elbows or knees, otherwise it would look broken. The shoulders and the ankles still can move a little bit sideways, however. This particular cat stretches so far forward that the legs are actually lying on the floor and the chest and the head are already touching the ground. The toes are also really nicely stretched out, and this is why I have these individual oval shapes. The face is normally relaxed or even tired, and then when we follow the spine, it will form some sort of S-curve upwards towards the butt. Here in this example I've drawn the back legs a bit stretched out too, although they could be lower than that. And the tail could be just loose or could be also pointing up if it's right now very happy. Now looking at the second stage, where we normally add more on to the bones. You can see that they have their claws out, which is very typical when they are stretching out their toes. And here a small detail that I will be repeating over and over again because it can make a huge difference is the skin that connects the knees with the chest or the belly. It closes the gap and makes this line here much smoother looking. And since these legs are so far stretched forward, they are actually going to be right next to the face, as you can see in this final version. Again, it is up to you in what kind of style you draw the cat in, so I won't be explaining much else. And so we're moving on to the next cat, which is another stretching cat, but this time it is stretching out its back legs. Now there are some important differences. First of all, it is still standing at least on one of its back legs. It's impossible for the cat to completely stretch out its back leg while also making sure that the paw pads are still in contact with the ground. However, it can stand on one leg while the other one is stretching out, like here in this example. And this leg could even stretch out further than I've drawn here. Another important thing that I already have described in the first video is the angle of this bone here, which depends on the position relative to the hip. If it's further back, then it's actually going to be vertical or even beyond that, tilted towards this direction. Knowing that, we can just draw this bone here, we already know where the hip is going to be, and then you simply connect. The hip is still quite a distance away from the ground, therefore the spine will not bend as much as in the first example. The tail could be pointing up or just hanging loose, and the front legs are normally standing straight, like so. Make sure that you have this joint pointing forward in order to have the chest sticking out. And the face is the same as it was in the first example, very relaxed or even tired. Moving on to the second stage, and you can see the skin connecting the knees with the belly, actually twice. And here's the final version, and you can see this cat looks very content and happy, like it's a really good stretch. Yes! Moving on to the next one, which I like to call a cinnamon roll, because it can form almost a perfect circle with just the ears sticking out. So I have this circle here as a guide. We start with the head, and we already know that the head is going to be much closer to the butt than normal, so it's not like all the way in its face, but still very close. So knowing that, we have the starting point and the finishing point, and we simply connect that in a circular curve. Just make sure that the spine is still the correct length. Then the legs are folded together, really nicely tucked in. Here in this example I've only drawn one front and one back leg, because the other one is not going to be visible, so it's not really necessary to draw them. And the tail is also normally tucked in really nicely to keep everything nice and compact and warm and fluffy. Ah yes. Here's the second stage, and I can tell you, you can omit a lot of details actually, because it's such a cuddly mess of fur that they will be disappearing in that anyways. And so therefore here we have the final version. And you can see this middle here is just a mix of belly and legs and whatnot. So I didn't really care too much about it, it's just a bunch of fur and it's very dark. And that's it. This cat could be rolled together even tighter, or could be also more spread out. It's up to you how you draw it. So the next one is a loaf. A loaf of bread, basically. It is called like that because it's just one singular form, which also resembles a loaf, therefore the name. As always, I have drawn the legs here for you, but actually it's not really necessary, because they're going to disappear underneath the fur anyways. But yeah, you can see that the paws are really nicely tucked in underneath the chest, and the back legs are just sitting normally. One thing that you should always consider when you draw this basic skeletal structure is that you remind yourself that there is more than just the bones. For example, this knee here could not be touching the spine or be very close to it, because there is a bunch of stuff in between, like muscles and skin and fur and whatnot. So you always have that in mind, and therefore, for example, this knee would be pointing away slightly from the body, because it is just simply displaced by the stuff in between. Important for this pose is also that you draw the spine very curved, and the head is about the same height as the back. Here's the second stage, and again, I drew these extra details for the legs, but it's not really necessary. And you notice also that there is no tail. Maybe it's just on the other side, or maybe it has a super short tail, who knows. I didn't add the tail to this drawing because I wanted to emphasize this loaf look. You cannot really see any details of the legs, just some indications maybe here and there, and then normally have a bump here for the back leg. So there we go, you just have a nice curve here with a little bump going down and basically just straight until you get to the chest, where it's also nicely rounded, and you put a head on top of it. And that's basically it. This next drawing here, I actually also made it for another tutorial about how cats express their emotions. This cat here is very tense, and this is why it's sitting in this kind of position. This pose here is actually very similar to the previous one. The only difference is that it's standing on top of its front legs. So therefore the knees are pointing up and are not on the ground level. From this position, cats are able to stand or even jump up very quickly, which is important if the cat is anxious like that. Well, since this one is very similar to the previous one, there's not really much else to explain other than the chest being above the ground. As you can see here, it's sticking out, and then slowly transitioning to the ground level. And here's the final version, and you probably should be a bit careful with this one. Moving on to a normal upright sitting position. The front legs in this case are just standing straight, so you have the shoulder going a bit forward, then the upper leg slightly backwards, and the rest straight down. And the paws could be close together or slightly apart, but not too far. And you draw the spine not straight down, don't make that mistake, but it curves backwards in this kind of S shape. The amount it curves back should be enough so the back legs here have enough space to be right behind the front paws. The paws of the back legs should be really close to these ones here, but not right next to them or even in front of them. This would not be correct. And the knees should be tilted away from the body just slightly. The tail could be just laying around or could be curled to the body. It is up to you. And the head could be in whatever kind of position. Here I actually wanted to show you the back side just for a change. Here's the second stage. You have the chest sticking out slightly like so. You will have a small bump here for the back leg. The belly will be sagging down a little bit and therefore partially or completely cover the back paws. It basically depends on how chubby the cat is. So if you would compare my two cats, Hanami's paws still stick out slightly, while Hoko, yeah, her paws are completely covered. She is a bit too chubby. And here you have the final version. Maybe this cat is sitting in front of a window watching some birds. Who knows? Now we get to the more complicated poses, but don't be intimidated. Here, this example is a cat that is in mid-air jumping. Now let's think at first how this cat actually got into this position. At first it was on the ground, sitting, with the back legs folded together. And then it released its potential energy by stretching out its back legs very rapidly. The front legs also play a role, but not too much. It's mostly the back legs which give it its kinetic energy. It propulses itself up and forwards, and therefore the hind legs are stretched backwards. The front legs are reaching forward, but they are not completely stretched out. It just makes itself ready in order to land. The spine is mostly straight, and so is also the tail. It just follows a streamline. And the head will obviously point forwards because it has to focus on the spot where it will land. Here is the second stage of the sketch, and as always I remind you of these lines that smoothen out the gaps between the knees and the rest of the body. And therefore you have the smooth and continuous line that goes on over here. To the final version I have added some light from below, I guess to make it look more dramatic. You can imagine that this cat is jumping to save its best friend. You go, kitty! Yeah! Anyways, let's move on to a cat that stands on top of its back legs. So, not really quite normal, but it can do it for a short amount of time. In order to have at least some stability, they will not be stretching out their back legs, but still have them folded together kinda halfways. So they are not quite sitting with the butt on the floor, but they are also not completely stretched out, in which case they would definitely not be able to remain their balance. They can stretch out the back legs briefly in order to reach for something, but they will soon have to go back downwards again. The feet would be normally far apart from each other, the spine is more or less straight with the tail just doing whatever, and the front legs are just free to do whatever they want. They can try to catch something or just hanging down like so. Here's the second stage, and I repeat it over and over again, but don't forget these extra lines here that connect the knees with everything else. And here's the final version with the kitty showing off its paw. It's a very nice paw, very soft, freshly cleaned, so it's very proud of it. So of course you have to check it out. Yes, you did great. Alright, moving on to the last one, which is very special for its own reason, and it is a cat cleaning its butt. Yes, a cat that cleans its butt. This is the most complicated drawing of a cat that I ever did. It's kind of ridiculous, but there are actually some rules that you can follow, and I explained them to you. First of all, the head is very low, with the face being very close to the butt, or actually connecting with the butt, that is. Therefore, the shoulders are the highest point of the body, the neck is curved down, and the spine will just simply connect those 2 points that are already defined. Just make sure that it's the correct length. Now the thing is, this cat is actually not sitting normally on the ground, like this one here, because in this example, the butt would be, like the butt would be facing towards the ground. And this way it's not accessible, it has to face forward. Therefore, in this pose here, it's actually not sitting on its butt, but on its lower back. Therefore, the angle at which the spine would come in would not be at the right angle, but parallel to the ground. And the tail just follows this curvature. It cannot bend backwards, otherwise it would be bent too much to the point where it actually injures its tail. Now let's take a look at those messy looking legs. The first one here is this one that it's reaching into the air. It doesn't have to be completely stretched out, it could be lower than that, or it could be actually very close to the ground. Also, by the way, whenever my cats do this kind of pose, I can't resist but high five that paw. It's just so tempting. And they always look at me weirded out, like, what the heck are you doing? Why do you disturb me? I love it. Anyways, so the other leg would be just angled away from the body and be very close to the ground. This pose is actually very unstable. In order to make sure that it's not falling over, it uses some tricks. First of all, the weight of the body is slightly tilted to this side here, and then it uses its front legs in order to stabilize itself. The first one here, on the opposite side of where the weight is concentrated, will go underneath the neck and then be placed in front of this back leg here. It could also be on the other side, I've seen this too, but normally it would be on this side over here. And the other leg will be reaching back to ensure that it's not rolling backwards. Here you have the second stage of the sketch where you can see it much clearer. Here, this leg here where you have this line again connecting the knee with the rest of the body, and this front leg here being behind it. And also you will be seeing the shape of the shoulders very clearly here at the top. Here's the final version of the drawing, and I'm quite happy with how it turned out. It's so peaceful looking. Yeah, such a peaceful butt cleaning session. So let's not disturb it any further. I hope it was interesting and helpful to you, and as always, if you have any questions or constructive feedback, then I'm always glad to read your comments. And if you want to support me and the show, then another thing you can do other than watching and kindly sharing my videos would be by supporting me on Patreon, which is immensely kind of you, and please do it if you can afford it, of course. Alright then, have fun drawing.